Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, it's still day 3 of my 4-day weekend, but I decided since I got done with the last project a little quicker than I thought I would, that I was going to spend a little time out here in the garage today. Now, it's still pretty hot outside, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to cool things off, and I've done that pretty well. But basically, I just got a couple things I want to get done out here to kind of make it a little bit more habitable out here. I have one more of these shelves in the shed in the backyard, and I think I want to put it right here. Now, the house came with this kind of nice towel rack here, and I like having that, but I think I'm going to move it somewhere else, maybe just higher up here on this wall so that I can put the shelf there. I have the freezer right now, that's plugged in, that's working really well. I'll be able to put some stuff in that real soon. And then I kind of want to get a little bit control over here. That cooler just commits suicide. But I want to get kind of this area here, because this is the one thing that's right now kind of congesting the garage a little bit, because this is the thing that's kind of limiting how far I can back up in the garage with a car. And if I can get a lot of this out of here and maybe in a more permanent place for it, then I won't have to worry so much about that anymore. So let's get going on this. All right, we're a little bit more organized now. One of the big problems I had was this big box here is that big zombie cowboy thing that I used to have hanging from the front of the house. That thing was like 20 feet tall, and that's what the box is. Now, I had that on top of the freezer for a while, and that made it really hard to get in and out of the freezer because now you always had to move that. So I got that new shelf in here, got that assembled, got some of the Halloween props onto that, and can get that thing now off the ground and off the freezer. I moved the towel rack here. It's maybe a little high for normal people, but I'm not a normal person, so I thought that was a good place. It's out of the way of the freezer, so now I can start using the freezer, which is getting to the point where it's nice and cool. And I also managed to get another about 3 or 4 feet behind here. I got the air compressor fired up for the first time. That's a good thing. The car's been complaining for a few days that I have low air pressure in the tires, so now I can do something about that. I've got this thing pumped up and under pressure now for the first time in a little bit more than a year, and I kind of want to just let it run by itself now for a while. See, what this thing does is when the air pressure drops below a certain level, the compressor kicks in and it fills it up again. It assumes that you're draining it. Well, somewhere along the line, back in California, I noticed that there was a leak in the system somewhere, and when you weren't using it, all of a sudden the compressor would come on like in the middle of the night and stuff like that. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to leave this under pressure now for a while. There's basically just the default system, which is the regulator and the fitting, and so let's see if that's where the problem is, or if it was maybe something downstream, some of these valves and fittings and stuff like that I've used in the past to control the air. It could be both, could be one or both. I may end up just having to take some of these fittings off and reattach them, put some new Teflon tape on them and all that. Now, I also ran into something a little bit interesting that I'm going to have to look into, and that is the outlet in the back here where I plugged the compressor in. I plugged it into the bottom outlet initially, and the compressor didn't come on. I panicked there for a minute because, I've had this for a couple years, but it's a relatively new compressor, and I should have many, many more years of it. Well, it just turns out that that bottom outlet back there doesn't work for some reason. So that's something I'm going to have to go figure out. I plugged, I said, okay, well, troubleshooting says, okay, well, try and figure out if it's something simple. Maybe the outlet just didn't work. So I plugged a fan into the top outlet, and the fan worked fine. It's like, well, that's weird. The fan works, but the compressor doesn't. Then I flipped outlets, and all of a sudden the fan didn't work, and the compressor does. So that bottom outlet doesn't work. It may be something in the fitting. It also could be something in the breaker panel here that I may have to look at some point. But at least knowing that that's what the problem is, I can work around. Yep, there's definitely a leak in the system somewhere, because that was only on for, I only fired it up and it filled it up like 10 or 15 minutes ago, and it's already leaked to the point where it had to fill up again. So yeah, at some point I'm going to have to take these fittings off and figure out where the problem is. Actually, when you get close to this regulator, you can actually hear the air leaking. So I think probably what I'll do, there's a little trick that they use. You put a little soapy water on some of the fittings, and if there's a leak, you'll see bubbles form around that. So I'll definitely do that, but there's definitely a leak in there somewhere. And I still haven't found a good place for this guy, but we'll deal with him at some point. He's also going to probably have to be rebuilt a little bit. He's had a hard year, and he's just kind of coming apart. So before we use him next time, we'll have to do a little bit of work on him. He lost his hand in the trip here also, so I'm going to figure out how to reattach that. That shouldn't be a horribly big job. Probably just end up taping it on or something like that. But like I said, he's had sort of a hard year, so we'll get him fixed up and we'll have him ready for Halloween at some point. But I think that's pretty much all that I have for today. I got my task accomplished of getting some more room in the garage so that I can get the car in and out a little easier. As you recall, earlier in the week I kind of moved the wall back a little bit this way, but now that I've moved it back further back here also, I'll get a few more feet, and that'll just give me a little bit more comfort space in terms of pulling the car into here. So that's all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.